If you're new to the channel, welcome in. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Hope you like what we're up to. We have been slowly chipping away at the opening act of our pilot. It's going to be about a 4 to 5 minute pilot, and this is roughly about the first minute or minute and a half that we've been chipping away at. So with that, we're going to share a bunch of cool things today, but we're going to go over to John's screen here and take a look at some upgrades that we've been doing in the neighborhood. For those of you that have been on previous episodes, you saw a lot of stand-in art when it came to some of the houses, trees, things like that. We've been upgrading those as we've gone along, and I think we're at a really good point to share again here kind of the final stages before we get into rendering and VFX. We're going to be doing some rain, some additional lighting and things like that. But as far as the blocking and timing of everything is concerned, we feel really good about it. We adjusted some camera angles here and there. And I think we're locked as far as what I would call an animatic. We don't have any of the animation in yet, so that'll be in future episodes as we work with Josh in the animation. So again, stick figures at this point, but this is really, again, a roadmap for John and I to figure out the exact timing and build out this animatic so we have that information for Josh in animation. And then once we're locked, then John can go in and have a lot of fun with textures and starting to update like a lot of the tech stuff, depending on what we see and what assets we end up landing on here at the end of the day as we kind of swap in different things and test them out and see, you know, maybe we like this, maybe we like that. So we're getting real close, and then yeah, we'll do final VFX and render, which will be a lot of fun for this scene, but we'll probably do that once we get to the rest of the pilot. So we'll be jumping into that as well soon. Let's take a look at, this horizon line shot. This is something that was fun to play with, and we realized in the first iteration of it, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. This is sort of the build out of the animatic through the last few weeks as we've been working on it. So in the top left, the original black and white image, that's something that I just created in Photoshop. Very rough, very raw. I found some elements of, a couple cars, gave them a little bit of motion blur. Built out Enid with a little fake shadow down there. Found a good element of a road with some neighborhood houses, threw in some lampposts and a background. That's just kind of all I needed to put together a rough Photoshop animatic so that John could have that to work with. So from there, on the top right, that's our very first 3D build. We just threw in that HDR sky. We had a couple new 3D cars in there, worked on the lighting a little bit just so we could see everything. And that was just sort of the first phase there as we were building out, a little bit more at dusk so we could see everything. In the bottom left, though, as you can see here, is when we get into a little bit of the atmosphere and the fog, figuring out how far we have to build out the landscape and our world as our sort of tabletop set, as we've shown you before. So what we decided, and this kind of bopped up with a couple of shots, but the fog was way too dense, so we wanted to pull back on that. But once we pulled back on the fog, we could see a little bit more of the end of the road. And it also just started to look a little strange with the lens we were using for the close-up shot of Enid. So today we worked on, if you see the bottom right shot there, pulled back on the fog, started working a little bit more on the sky, added in some trees right and left, our tree-lined street, and built off another, a block or two. John can show you once we do another flyby. But we just realized we needed more depth in the set. And even though the fog was sort of helping us at the beginning, sort of hide and mask the edge of the set, once we pulled back on that, we could clearly see a horizon line. So we built in some more lampposts, more trees, brought in some cool houses we'll show you. And so that's just sort of the build out of, as you can see, the last few stages as we get looking better and better on this. So really coming along. All right, John, I'll go back to you.
Cool.
Cool. So yeah, let's maybe just watch down a couple times, and
Yeah.
you can see we added some flowers in the walkway. We added in a temp sign for the orphanarium. So that's going to be pretty cool. Added in the new houses. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just changing something here on my other screen so you guys get a better view of this. I had it off a little bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there's that shot. Now you can see just the depth and detail and a lot of the landscaping and building out the town that we were losing a lot of with the fog. Here we have an updated orphanarium. This is that 3D model some of you probably saw last episode. Before that, we were using a 2D cutout version of it just for placing. But now that we have that model, we're able to do a little bit of a paint job. So this is not the final. We just started tweaking and trying out some colors, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But I know Julie was really inspired by having a colorful, magical orphanarium, so not too dark and dingy. So we'll get into that. Yeah, we got a little temp sign John built out for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just pause around there, maybe scrub through this last shot.
Sure.
Real quick. But yeah, adding in some flowers and some landscaping, again, to bring a little life to the orphanarium, get some color in there. Added in a temp sign on the right. That'll be Peebs orphanarium for Poppets. So we'll design that separately in 3D and build out that sign. Again, we have our Peebs mailbox and the Puppet mailbox. Might put a little Puppet Tribune sticker on there. And then we just temped in some animation. John worked on this for the letter, which sort of kicks off our story. So yeah, it's looking really good. I don't know if there's anything from your end you want to point out on this. I know we did change the speed of the cars a little bit.
Yeah.
Then you could always do a flyover and, look at anything down at the end of the road and the houses next. But
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, we actually, I could show out of camera, we kind of cheated the cars a little bit because we changed lenses and it looks like the car's closer than it is, so when it jumps, it looks funny.
yeah, it was really it was really far back there, and we weren't getting the effect that we were looking for with the oncoming danger. So we had to futz around with that in the temp animation.
Yeah, so you can see it goes from jumps from here, jumps from there to there, 2 frames, and then change the speed. Yeah.
Yeah, and these houses. So this is a great update for everybody to see. We've had those temp sort of Victorian houses that were across the street. It was just like 2D Photoshop that we, put together, and John just kind of threw them out there. And again, we were using that for the spacing and blocking of mainly that first shot with Enid running out to the street. So in a minute here, I'll kind of share what that's been looking like for those of you just catching up. And I don't have a final, but John's got the final. I will share this. Let's see. Yeah. So.
What are you looking for, Jed?
Oh yeah, I was just your final frame on this beginning to show those houses as we updated them. But yeah, if you yeah, I'll jump back to you. But I'm just showing sort of the build out there of the storyboard. So in the top left again, just Photoshop black and white, threw in some images. This was again just to get the idea of cross for how this is going to look, how it's going to work. And then in the top right, over here, this was sort of our first Unreal, and I think we were in Unreal 4 at the time. Did we start in 4 and then transfer to 5?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
About a week or two in.
Yeah. Okay. So those houses looked cool, but a little too colorful, a little bit too ornate. We definitely wanted the orphanarium to stand out in the neighborhood and have a nice presence. So we dialed it back a little bit, and when we were doing some house hunting, we went towards just a little bit more of a suburban feel. We took out the garages on the house so that we don't have to deal with driveways and the houses could be closer together. We'll show you that stuff in a minute. And then on the bottom left, again, that was just once we started to light and made a few other changes. But now back to John, as we can see, we now have these nice 3D modeled houses in there. And John, you could sort of just talk about the parts and pieces and how we played with them. There's really just a fun way. We only have a few models in there now, but there's ways you can sort of reshape these houses and do some construction on them if you need to put an addition. I think most of what we did was subtraction, but.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, so far these are. But it's basically all these different pieces in this blueprint. So right now there's still basically like the template version, and we'll be customizing them. I've started to customize the colors a little bit, but yeah, we'll be adding and subtracting to them so that they're not all exactly the same. So they're more our own houses too.
Yeah, and like we flipped some of the floor plans and maybe, like I said, take off the garage. We'll probably mess around with some of the landscaping as well. Maybe even stagger them in depth by a couple feet, so they're not perfectly straight across, which probably surprises everybody I would do that, but maybe just that first one's a little closer, and then the other ones step back to the left and right.
Right.
That's probably what I would do. But yeah, those are looking really good. And again, a little bit of generic suburban, so the orphanarium really pops and also leans towards some other animation sensibilities. Edward Scissorhands comes to mind, obviously, but we're not going that crazy with it, or that stylized, I should say, but maybe that mundane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite that suburban, but
Yeah, it's in between. It's like mid-city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you'd imagine the alleys are in the back, and there's a garage in back, and maybe we'll put some telephone poles back there. Again, we're sort of working our way inside out from the middle of the road. So as we build out, we see how much depth we need, and then if there's a place for something, we can drop something back there. So we have foreground, second ground, and background for the most part, and then probably our 4D, which would be the HDRI, the final lighting in the background.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you do have the fences back there. We kept those in, or did you put them back in?
I put them back in. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Over here, they're actually going through the houses right now, but we'll be fixing that too.
What happened to the porch lights on? We added some porch lights on these just to give them a little bit of glow, and we'll end up doing some like interior lights. This is twilight, dinner time, maybe late summer, fall, I guess, with the rain. But we definitely want the houses to feel alive, so it doesn't feel like 2 a.m. is the point. So we'll get some lighting in some of those windows, see what the curtains or dressing or things like that. Probably keep it minimal, just basic shapes, just so the houses feel alive a little bit. We can do a little Home Alone animation and put some cardboard cutouts on a railroad track and have them drive in circles back there.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking cool. Is there furniture? We haven't, there's no we haven't done any chairs or tables or things out there, right? These are just the houses. I know we have furniture pieces, but we haven't dressed in anything yet. Who knows if we'll see it, but,
No.
Maybe during the daytime, we would see something.
Right.
Which is something we're going to have to consider. We've been looking at it obviously unlit, so we can see what everything looks like. For the most part, we've been doing renders here just at nighttime as we develop the lighting for this opening scene, but we will have a closing scene that takes place in the morning, so we're going to want some sunlight on this. And at that point too, we may move things around for that specific scene if we need to. I don't think we're going to be moving houses or anything, but some of the dressing or certain things like that may look better at night or during the day, depending on camera move and what we're seeing in the closing scene. And then the inside, really detailed stuff, on par with the interior of what we've seen in some of our NFTs, like the Halloween and zombie scene. Obviously a little bit different style and more modern, but there are some elements in there to play with if we need them. Otherwise, we'll just keep the lights off on some of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking really good.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm really curious at the rain. Oh, this is something really nice too. The lighting here on this lamppost, where John, you can kind of just audition turning off and on if you can, that bottom light that we were using for spread on the ground. I think it's really interesting. I mean, just as you would in live action, but in 3D, it's so much easier to be able to add in lights when you don't have to worry about C-stands and flags and actually setting things up from a distance. So in 3D, it's really nice with some of the lighting it can either affect some objects and not affect other objects. You can also use multiple lights to sort of cast what you'd think from a single light, like we did, or John did here on the lamppost.
Yeah.
So that top light there is a separate light than what we're casting down there.
Yeah.
Just gives a nice glow. But then we get some throw on it, which is nice. And all the lighting on Enid right now is temp, so she kind of has a little spotlight on her as we follow her across the street. So we'll change that moving forward, but that makes it easy for us to see the characters, so everybody knows what they're looking at for now. So still lots of final lighting to do as far as detailed lighting, but I think the neighborhood's really great. And we added a light on the sign, a couple lights at the front of the orphanarium, just on the grass by the bushes to liven up the front. But yeah, I mean, that overhead looks awesome and definitely gives it a lively but adventurous kind of feel.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet wide shot there.
Yeah, totally.
If I didn't need Preston's and Franklin's POV, that would be a great angle for this.
Yeah.
Plus, we're a little bit wider screen. We're not at 16:9, so we can use different lenses as we do in depth of field that we'll get into on the final pass. But as we fly around here and we sort of jump out, it's just a big wide angle lens. It's just an overhead flyby. And it always ends up giving really cool results that we don't ever quite mimicking, but would like to at some point. But again, the aspect ratio of this is more like a, I don't know, 1.815 or something like that, or 2:1 even. But yeah, you can even change your ratio there. But the lens is always so cool. And I always wanted to figure out like what kind of, is this a fisheye, an 18? Never could quite.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it doesn't use the regular field of view is 90 degrees. So that would be, what would that be in 90 degrees? That would be like 28.
Maybe.
Definitely not that much. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's on there.
Yeah, that looks so cool. Bird's eye view up in a telephone pole or a power line.
This tree over here looks really giant.
Yeah, let's go down to the end of the street a little closer. I know you showed it in that big overhead, but I'm just curious. Take a look at all the trees that we sort of put back there. There's kind of one nice big one in the center that centers up. And that's part of the new, got it. Yeah, so that's really nice to have the 3D trees and then, street ends, but
Yeah.
we built off another block with like another 3 or 4 lights. And then just even having those trees, even if there's not a road there, it helps. Those little small bushes.
Yeah.
It's like being out in the middle of like farmland when they first start building a neighborhood, like a suburban new neighborhood. It's like,
Yeah.
they're like, this section is done and there's nothing else around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into the cars a little bit more. We're still going to swap out those cartoony ones, but we've just left them alone for now. And yeah, these shadows look a lot better from last time. We changed our lighting style. John, you want to talk about, we went from this is now an HDRI, the other one wasn't, or vice versa?
It's actually still being lit from the directional light, but yeah, Alex worked with me on the lighting, and actually he helped set us up with the IES files.
Yeah, it makes those shadows a lot softer and more realistic.
And then yeah, we kind of worked on the directional light, softening up the shadow, and then of course just having a lot more stuff in the scene also helps with that too.
Yeah, it breaks it up a little bit more.
Could help with that too. It's nice.
Yeah, I loved how crisp they were before until you guys did this, and I was like, oh, but this looks more realistic. And
you can always go somewhere in between, but yeah, I think this is probably kind of like closer to where it should be.
yeah.
But it's it doesn't have to be 100% real, perfect realism for sure. So,
Is there a way that we could have that? Well, yeah, I'm just thinking it'd be cool. Might want to be a little crisper when we get in that wide shot of Enid. We might want to see her shadow sort of cast on the road, which I think could be really cool.
yeah.
That was something.
Well, and we can always set up something like that with like light channels, which is
R-
lighting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again,
And
and
that's actually, he has a shadow here.
is that from
Oh,
the
actually,
car?
we actually also we have it. It's we actually have another. I forgot. We have another directional light that's lighting up the orphanarium, but that's kind of a temp thing. We're gonna eventually just light the orphanarium, uh, with lights that would be illuminating it, in in the scene, and then we can eliminate that light, which is creating some weird effects. So we would want to get rid of it. Um,
Yeah, again, just the possibilities and capabilities in 3D is just so beyond what I'm used to in stop motion, and it's really great to see, like you said, the different levels for lighting and being able to have different lights affect different objects, turn different levels off with lights, and not have to see again all the grip and lighting gear. No offense to my grip brothers out there, but yeah, it's really cool to be able to go in and just cheat a lot of stuff.
totally.
And then yeah, then I just our bright light on her for now that follows her, just so we can see her as we work. But yeah, it's coming along great. And our final edit, there's a lot of just little frame changes in there. We did change. We went a little wider on that close-up shot of Enid going across the street. Again, we were using this telephoto lens and having some issues with the fog, and it just looked really flat and kind of pixelated for some reason. We're not quite sure. There was just a few things that were giving us some problems. And so John suggested, let's not go telephoto. Let's go with the wider lens, but have the camera be closer. And that really helped,
Yeah.
along with getting rid of the fog and adding in a bit of the background. But
Definitely.
that really helped. I know we went a little bit lower on that mailbox shot. I think that was something that we showed off in last episode, so everybody's seen that. But
Yeah, this is the one that you're just.
oh yeah, there you go. And we still might go a little closer. There's a little bit of dialogue in this, but so that's why we wanted to be close. Originally, this shot was completely in the wide, which is where we cut out after this shot to the oncoming car. But since we added in some dialogue, we thought there was like some good storytelling time there, and decided to punch in a little bit closer. And at the moment, I just said, "Oh, let's just go to a 70 or an 80," and we went telephoto and just kind of left it that way. But now that we're finalizing, and what's that?
There was like 120.
Was it
Actually.
120? Yeah. No wonder it didn't look great.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of like if we had a really vast scene, I think it would have worked fine. I think it was just really exposing the end of the scene, the end of the level.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. We had a whole year to work on this, then we could do that. But yeah, and then all these shots, or the majority of them, will also have depth of field in the end too. So, and here's kind of like we had kind of set up just a test of that, of how it looks on, and we're getting a little noise over here because this is an older material that I have to update, but you can kind of get a sense of that.
Yeah, it looks so much better. I mean, just these 3 shots have come a long way just in the last couple days. And again, once everything's sketched out with timing for the animatic and you get all your elements in there, then we just upgrade the quality, look at the lighting. And we probably won't revisit the exterior of the orphanarium until we get some animation in there. Josh has been plugging away. So we're working on that, going back and forth with files. So that may be another week or two till we come back to this. I know you guys have all probably seen enough of it already. We have been working on the rumpus room, but want to get it to a good point that we have some updates to share. So we'll be jumping in with Julie next week and working on more of that. And so hopefully next Thursday, we will do an orphanarium update, rumpus room, I should say. Maybe the dumbwaiter intro scene as well, but we might push that to the end. Just working on credits and things like that and pulling some imagery. So that's kind of a project in its own right that we'll get to. But thanks for joining. And I'll do a little sign off. Sorry about that. I was still really watching John and excited about everything. Thanks for joining. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Hopefully next Thursday, same puppet time, same puppet